Have you ever wondered what your grandparents' Thanksgiving looked like between the 1950s and 1970s? Back then, the dinner table wasn't just about a golden turkey, it was a heaven of inventive side dishes. From sparkling green Jell-O salad to the creamed pearl onions that demanded absolute patience. Each dish carried the warm flavor of family and sweet memories of a simpler time. Today, join us as we explore 25 Thanksgiving side dish recipes from the 1950s to 1970s that have now vanished from the modern kitchen. Cornbread dressing with giblet gravy is the soul of Southern Thanksgiving, carrying the aroma of sage and rich broth throughout the kitchen. To make this dish, your mom or grandma would start with what seemed like the simplest ingredient, day-old cornbread, because only stale cornbread had the right dryness to be crumbled by hand, allowing it to soak up every drop of rich turkey broth without turning mushy. This dressing was also mixed with soft sautéed onions, celery, and other savory herbs. The real secret that created distinction and elegance was the giblet gravy. Grandma would spend hours simmering the turkey heart, neck, and liver into a concentrated broth, then dicing the tender giblets and stirring them back into a smooth, silken sauce. Giblet gravy represented the spirit of utilizing resources completely and respecting every part of the animal dedicated to the feast. Making this complex giblet gravy was once a ritual confirming the homemaker's skill and meticulousness, a side dish that required technique and patience that few could master. This was always the first recipe passed down in family cookbooks or church recipe cards. Today, most people skip the giblets, replacing them with convenient canned stuffing mixes, making this cohesive, rich flavor a rare find and a great loss for authentic culinary tradition. If cornbread dressing was rustic and deep, the molded cranberry salad was a perfect, sparkling, and colorful showstopper on the dinner table. In the mid-20th century, for formal holiday gatherings, home cooks always looked for convenient dishes that still looked glamorous, like this molded cranberry salad. Grandma would start with the familiar canned cranberry sauce, then mix it with crushed pineapple, often convenient canned pineapple, chopped pecans for crunch, and a bit of gelatin to hold the mold. This colorful and flavorful mixture was then poured into classic round, ring, or spiral molds and chilled overnight in the refrigerator. When unmolded, the dish became a magnificent ruby-red frosted wreath, often gently topped with a layer of cream cheese or whipped cream. The dish offered a compelling contrast, the sweet and sour taste of cranberry and pineapple against the crunch of pecans and the richness of the cream topping. Lifestyle and food magazines in the 60s and 70s called this dish the hostess's secret weapon because it created a strong visual impression, demonstrated sophistication, yet was easy to make and could be prepared ahead of time. It is truly regrettable that today, those elegant molds are gathering dust in kitchen cabinets and cranberries are served straight from the can, losing the subtle artistic presentation of a bygone era. Creamed pearl onions were always the pride of homemakers in the Thanksgiving kitchens of the 50s to 70s and beyond, because it demanded extraordinary patience and absolute dedication to make. First, cooks had to peel dozens of tiny pearl onions without damaging them, a seemingly mundane task, but a crucial part of the labor of love in the kitchen. Sometimes, this task would be assigned by grandma or mom to the children to teach them patience. The carefully cleaned onions would then be simmered gently in traditional bechamel sauce. This sauce, made from butter and flour, then had milk added and was cooked until smooth and light as cashmere, enveloping each tiny pearl onion. The small secret that brought its signature warmth was a pinch of freshly grated nutmeg stirred in right before serving. The warm, delicate, and slightly pungent aroma of nutmeg blended into the rich cream provided a wonderful feeling of winter. This dish showed Grandma's dedication to presenting the side dish in the most perfect way on Thanksgiving. Today, in an era where convenience reigns supreme, few have time for the meticulous ritual of peeling pearl onions as they once did, and this dish gradually faded into oblivion, replaced by faster prepared vegetables. On the 1970s Thanksgiving table, nothing brought the same gentle golden comfort as your grandma's baked corn pudding. The way this dish was made was similar to a savory custard. It combined creamed corn and whole kernel corn, often canned, eggs, milk, or evaporated milk for extra richness, and a hint of sugar to balance the flavors. This mixture was then whisked thoroughly and baked slowly in the oven. This was a rustic and hearty side dish, very popular in farming communities, quietly holding its own among the more elaborate dishes. To achieve a perfect baked corn pudding, you needed to bake it until the edges turned light caramel brown and the center set with a slight custard-like wobble without being dry or crumbly. Eggs played a vital binding role, giving the dish a smooth texture that melted in the mouth and maximizing the natural sweet flavor of the corn. This was a children's favorite because of its mild sweetness and soft texture, and it was also cherished by older folks for its warmth and ease of digestion. As tastes changed, faster, drier cornbread mixes took over, and this custard-style pudding gradually faded. Yet, even today, no dish can truly bring back the feeling of home and the memory of Grandma's kitchen like this baked corn pudding. Scalloped oysters was a wonderful dish that brought the flavor of the coast to the Thanksgiving table, particularly popular in New England and the Mid-Atlantic states. It showed that holiday cuisine in the 50s to 70s was not limited to the land, but also reached out to the sea. The classic recipe called for savory fresh oysters, or convenient canned oysters in brine, gently soaked in a rich cream mixture and a hint of sherry. Sherry was a fortified wine often used in sophisticated mid-century dishes to enhance flavor. The oysters were then carefully layered alternately with crumbled saltine crackers or buttered breadcrumbs, creating an enticing layered texture. The dish was baked for about 20 minutes until the top layer turned golden and crispy, while the cream underneath bubbled into a rich, savory sauce, spreading a subtle mineral scent of the ocean. This dish was a symbol of abundance, yet also thriftiness, utilizing readily available local seafood to elevate a common side dish. It offered a smooth texture and a savory mineral flavor, a unique contrast among the meat and sweeter vegetable dishes on the table. Scalloped oysters is now a rarity today, a regrettable disappearance that reminds us of a time when seafood was also a shining star alongside turkey and vegetables. The carrot raisin salad used to be a cool, refreshing dish that looked like sunshine served in a glass bowl. It represented the convenience and brightness that homemakers of the 1950s to 1960s were looking for. Grandma's traditional recipe was incredibly simple and quick, taking less than 5 minutes to complete. Crisp, fresh, shredded carrots, plump, softened raisins, diced or crushed canned pineapple were all mixed thoroughly with a generous spoonful of mayonnaise. In the mid-20th century, salads made with mayonnaise, often referred to as the height of sophistication, were the pride of homemakers because they demonstrated elegance without requiring extensive effort. The combination of the natural sweetness of carrots and raisins, the tartness of canned pineapple, and the creamy, smooth richness of mayo made it strangely both refreshing and appealing, creating a flavor more complex than you might think. Today, this salad has been replaced by fresher green salads and lighter, less fatty vinaigrettes, suiting modern palates. But for the previous generation, this was the taste of unity and celebration in a simple glass bowl, a sweet culinary memory that has faded away. If you also want to bring these classic dishes back to your Thanksgiving table, comment "hype" below the video to spread the warm spirit and vintage flavor. Ambrosia Salad is a dish many remember as a 5-minute miracle that brought a touch of southern warmth and tropical color to the holiday table in the middle of winter. The recipe was often found on the back of canned fruit cocktail labels, showing Grandma's cleverness in using newly available convenient canned products. Your grandmother combined canned mandarin oranges, pineapple, bright red maraschino cherries, mini marshmallows, and shredded coconut, mixing it all with sour cream or whipped cream, resulting in a surprisingly sweet dish. It was particularly chaotic in texture, with chewy coconut paired with squishy marshmallows. Ambrosia blurred the line between salad and dessert. It was a lavish indulgence, a bold creation that showcased the abundance and cheerful spirit of the 60s. The name Food of the Gods was not ironic to those who considered tropical fruit a luxury during those years. This dish was a symbol of boundless creativity and the acceptance of new flavors of that era. Today, this dish has been dismissed as it is often considered too sweet or too bizarre, but it remains a symbol of a time when canned foods represented modernity in the kitchen. This Irish mashed potatoes, Colcannon, brought the flavors of the old country to Irish-American communities, a tribute to the immigrant heritage that shaped American cuisine. This was no ordinary mashed potato dish. Grandma's Thanksgiving recipe involved mixing in sautéed cabbage or kale softened with butter and milk, creating characteristic green streaks and a gentle, earthy flavor that made it heartier. This dish was a testament to immigrant ingenuity, combining rich potatoes and sweet, soft cabbage, making it both hearty and brightly flavored. Colcannon was a filling side dish that provided the warmth of tradition and respect for the land and the bounty of the harvest. Your grandmother used vegetables to stretch ingredients and add nutritional value during times when the economy was tight. The disappearance of this dish is perhaps due to the simplification of holiday taste, as greens have vanished from most mashed potatoes to make way for purely buttery versions. Colcannon gradually became only a memory in old cookbooks, a dish that reminds us of holidays when basic ingredients could become the stars of the feast thanks to the cook's resourcefulness. Although it shares oysters with scalloped oysters, oyster dressing is a stuffing version baked outside the turkey, once the pride of coastal America at Thanksgiving feasts in the 70s. This dish was completely different from regular herb bread stuffing. For your grandmother, adding oysters to the dressing was not only a culinary innovation, but also a way to stretch ingredients and add nutritional value. Chopped oysters were mixed with crumbled stale bread, moistened with turkey broth, and seasoned. The oysters melted into the bread, creating an aftertaste of deep ocean salinity with the savory bread. This dish not only brought a difference in flavor, but was also an expression of culinary abundance and maximizing what nature provided, showing cleverness in preparing dishes from every available resource. However, despite representing both abundance and thrift, oyster dressing has now almost vanished from modern dinner tables, partly because sourcing fresh oysters is increasingly difficult and expensive, and partly because palates have shifted towards sweeter or more traditional herb stuffings. Its absence is a reminder of a time when boldness in home cooking was encouraged. This lime Jell-O salad with cottage cheese made the 1960s dinner table sparkle and brought surprises. This dish made the 1960s dinner table sparkle, caused surprise, and was always a topic of conversation. You either loved this recipe madly or hated it bitterly. Lime Jell-O salad with cottage cheese was taken straight from Jell-O marketing pamphlets. Bright neon green lime gelatin was combined with canned pineapple, and the most controversial element was a generous scoop of cottage cheese, forming fluffy white curds floating in the translucent Jell-O layer. This was proof of that era's obsession with molded dishes and the strange mix of sweet and savory flavors. The cottage cheese floating in the Jell-O created a flavor and texture combination that still surprises anyone born after 1980. The sweet, tart, artificial lime flavor contrasting with the savory, fresh dairy. This dish represented modern kitchen technology of the time, when the use of refrigerators and molds became common, transforming ordinary food into sparkling, chilled works of art. Today, this salad survives mainly in faded recipe cards, a reminder of a time when gelatin could turn anything into a colorful and surprising celebration. This glazed carrots dish was as reliable on the holiday table as the oven timer, signaling the golden turkey was done. This was a simple yet extremely effective way for Grandma to transform a humble vegetable into a sparkling and appealing side dish. Fresh carrots were uniformly sliced, simmered until just tender, then glazed on the stovetop with a mixture of quality fresh butter and melted brown sugar. Your grandmother's goal wasn't just to cook the carrots, but to create a perfect shine, coating each slice with a sweet, delicate caramel layer while still retaining a certain crispness. This glaze not only added sweetness, but also gave the carrots a slightly chewy, sticky texture, distinctly different from other soft casseroles. This dish was a simple, quiet way to persuade even the pickiest eaters to consume their vegetables, as the sweet glaze softened the slight bite of the carrots. In the 1950s, sugar-coated vegetables were a way to coax the most finicky eaters in the family. Today, people tend to roast or leave carrots raw to retain crispness and reduce sweetness, aligning with healthier eating trends. However, its sweet, warm flavor remains a memorable remembrance of holidays past. The Thanksgiving ritual for many in the 50s to 70s began with the small pop sound when the can was opened, and the slow, wobbly slide of the cranberry jelly onto the plate. Cranberry Rings from the can is a side dish that blends deep nostalgia with gentle humor due to its blatant convenience. What made this dish iconic was that it still retained the ridges from the tin mold like a cheerful wink at the era of convenience foods. Those ridges served as natural pre-sliced guides. This dish instantly became a centerpiece decoration on the table because of its bright red color and its perfectly artificial shape. Although it required no cooking skills, its presence was mandatory, an intriguing contrast to all the other labor-intensive dishes. Canned cranberry sauce is still sold well today, but it is rarely given the place of honor and praise as before. Even so, its playful, wobbly presence remains a reminder of a time when the simplest shortcut still brought a sense of festivity and was widely accepted. Rutabaga Mash is a silent, symbolic dish of thriftiness and resourcefulness, especially popular in agricultural communities and the Midwestern U.S., where these resilient root vegetables thrived in fall and winter. The yellow rutabagas were harvested, thoroughly boiled, then mashed by hand or with a potato masher, mixed with butter, a little cream or milk, and salt to enhance the savory flavor. What made rutabaga different and unique from potatoes was that it offered a delicate, mild bitterness and a deep, earthy flavor. This distinctive taste helped it serve as an important palate cleanser, balancing the richness and sweetness of other dishes on the Thanksgiving table, such as sweet potato casserole or creamy bakes. For those who still remember this flavor, this is the taste of perseverance and a tribute to resourceful cooks who found comfort, warmth, and sufficiency in every corner of the kitchen, even when ingredients weren't the most expensive. Now, as attention shifts to potatoes and sweet potatoes, Rutabaga Mash has been regrettably forgotten. Broccoli, rice casserole with cheese whiz, is a proud symbol of the convenience food era that shaped American cuisine in the 1960s and 1970s. This dish was considered the perfect solution for busy homemakers who wanted a hearty side dish without complicated cooking. The recipe was purely pragmatic and surprisingly easy. Frozen broccoli, rice, often pre-cooked rice, and the indispensable star ingredient, a jar of cheese whiz or condensed cream of mushroom soup, all mixed together and baked. The true magic of this dish was the unmistakable neon orange cheese sauce of cheese whiz, which was designed to melt perfectly, clinging to every grain of rice and piece of broccoli without clumping. This was a foolproof side dish, widely advertised by craft flyers in the 1960s and 1970s as a modern solution, ensuring comfort and familiarity for every family. For a time, this casserole was a main event at PTA potlucks and Thanksgiving buffets. It brought a warm, rich, and savory feel, a wonderful contrast to the other sweet dishes on the table. Today, with new cheese whiz formulations and fresh vegetables being trendy, the traditional casserole no longer appears on the holiday menu. If this broccoli rice casserole brings back memories of cozy family gatherings, the flavor of rich cheese whiz, and the convenience of the 70s, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel so we can continue preserving these old stories. If traditional Waldorf salad was elegant, the jellied Waldorf salad was the jewel of holiday parties. Jellied Waldorf salad was a dish that offered a slightly higher level of elegance and sophistication compared to other Jell-O dishes, once considered the jewel of Thanksgiving holiday parties. Essentially, this dish encased the classic Waldorf recipe, which includes crisp apples, diced celery, fragrant toasted walnuts, and grapes, in a layer of sparkling lemon or orange gelatin. Magazines in the 1960s praised this dish as a symbol of luxury, as it demonstrated skill in both technique and presentation. The secret to this dish's success was Grandma's need to carefully time the Jell-O setting and arrange the layers of ingredients so that the apple pieces, nuts, and celery were clearly displayed in the transparent mold, creating an incredible visual effect. This dish was considered the pinnacle of sophistication in the art of molded cuisine, cheerful, creative, yet maintaining a proud appearance when presented. It provided a cool, crisp contrast, opposing the richness and heaviness of the other savory dishes on the Thanksgiving table. Today, the idea of apples and celery floating in Jell-O might be surprising and confusing to the younger generation, but Jellied Waldorf was once a sophisticated side dessert, a harmonious blend of classic and modern. This was a golden, indispensable dish on the mid-20th century dinner table, especially popular in the American South. Squash casserole transformed the humble yellow squash into a rich and hearty side dish. The traditional recipe involved cooking sliced yellow squash until soft, then mixing it with sautéed onions, a little sour cream or condensed cream, and sometimes a bit of sharp cheddar cheese for richness. The true magic and the highlight of resourcefulness in this recipe lay in the topping. A layer of Ritz crackers crushed by hand, thoroughly mixed with melted butter, then spread evenly over the top of the casserole. When baked, this crust turned golden, crispy, and savory, creating a perfect textural contrast to the soft, warm squash underneath. The buttery, crisp Ritz cracker topping was the hallmark of a discerning homemaker, knowing how to turn an ordinary vegetable dish into something special, a blend of homemade cooking and convenient products. For those who remember, the first spoonful scooping up the soft squash beneath that crispy, savory butter crust was the pure taste of warm nostalgia from family gatherings. Spoonbread. Spoonbread is a standout dish of Southern cuisine, not just for its flavor, but also because it demanded perfect timing from the cook. This is a unique dish, part delicate soufflé, part easy-to-make familiar cornbread. The recipe required cornmeal to be simmered with milk and butter, and then the main element that made the difference was gently folding this mixture with softly beaten egg whites, meringue, similar to making a soufflé. When successful, the bread would puff up dramatically in the oven, golden and airy, creating a texture as light as air, melting instantly upon touching the palate. The golden secret passed down through generations was that it must be served hot immediately before it deflates, because its lightness couldn't last long. Spoonbread is a rare sight today, partly because of its fussiness and strict timing requirement. If you hesitate even for a few minutes, you will miss the perfect soufflé-like texture that once made it legendary for Thanksgiving and weekend breakfasts. Brussels sprouts with chestnuts and bacon. The Brussels sprouts with chestnuts and bacon brought a continental flair and rare sophistication to the 1960s Thanksgiving table, setting it apart from typical creamy casseroles. Brussels sprouts, a vegetable often disliked but skillfully prepared, were sautéed with thick, crisp bacon, offering a savory and smoky aroma. However, the true star of this dish was the roasted, peeled, and chopped chestnuts, which provided a deep, earthy sweetness and a soft texture. After blight wiped out native chestnut trees in America, imported chestnuts became a seasonal luxury and quite expensive. Therefore, the presence of this dish symbolized old-world elegance, a tribute to French and Italian culinary traditions, demonstrating the homemaker's knowledge of premium ingredients. Although Brussels sprouts have made a strong comeback in modern cuisine, this classic trio, sprouts, bacon, and roasted chestnuts, is now just a fragrant memory on old yellowed cookbook pages, a vintage flavor worth reviving. Creamed spinach with nutmeg. Creamed spinach is a dish that brought continental elegance, giving the feeling of a high-end restaurant luxury right in your grandmother's kitchen. It was considered a refined and delicious substitute for ordinary greens as it transformed spinach into a lavish culinary experience. Fresh, or conveniently frozen spinach, was cooked, then mixed into a silken bechamel sauce, a base sauce made from butter, flour, and milk, cooked until rich and creamy. Your grandmother, who knew how to use seasoning sparingly but effectively, would show her sophistication by adding just a pinch of freshly grated nutmeg, stirred in right before serving. Nutmeg played a vital role in adding a warm, pungent aroma and a slight spiciness, highlighting the creamy richness of the dish. This dish was praised for its richness, delicacy, and warmth. For those who remember, the subtle yet distinctive fragrance of nutmeg rising from this creamy casserole still carries the profound meaning of Thanksgiving, reminding us of days when even vegetables donned their perfect, most beautiful attire. Baked apples with brown sugar and cinnamon. This baked apples dish was more than just a side or a dessert. It was what carried the entire scent of autumn right into the heart of the Thanksgiving feast, spreading through every corner of the house. Fresh, crisp apples, often a slightly tart variety to balance the sweetness, were carefully cored, and that hollow center was stuffed with a sweet mixture of dark brown sugar, melted butter, and a thick layer of ground cinnamon. The magic of this dish was the slow and deliberate baking process. In the oven, the apple's natural juices would blend with the sugar and spices, bubbling up to form a natural syrup that turned golden caramel at the edges. The aroma spreading throughout the house was a promise of warmth, comfort, and the abundance of the harvest season. Today, this simple, rustic, old-fashioned baked apple has been almost entirely replaced by more complex baked goods like Dutch crumble apple cake or pie. But nothing can capture the spirit of the holiday kitchen like the sweet, spicy fragrance of apples and cinnamon slowly baking in the oven, a simple yet unforgettable memory. Sweet potato soufflé with marshmallow topping. This was not simply a side dish. It was the fuel for the annual family debate over whether sweet potatoes should be savory or sweet. Sweet potato soufflé was an expression of the optimism and showmanship of mid-20th century cuisine. The recipe started with finely mashed sweet potatoes mixed with brown sugar, melted butter, vanilla, and then gently folded with beaten eggs, creating a light, sponge-like texture. The show began when the dish was topped with a dense layer of mini marshmallows. When baked, this marshmallow layer puffed up, turning golden caramel, creating a chewy, sweet, and warm outer crust. Some homemakers swore that Thanksgiving was impossible without this golden marshmallow layer, considering it tradition. Conversely, others argued that it was too sweet, too modern, and a sacrilege to traditional sweet potatoes. Whether you loved it or rejected it, this dish remains an icon, proving that sometimes a little controversy is the secret ingredient that creates vibrancy and unique family traditions. Ratatouille. The appearance of ratatouille on the Thanksgiving table was a rare sign of French culinary influence in American homes, especially during the 1970s when Julia Child's cooking shows became popular. This dish was a bold departure, completely different from conventional creamy casseroles or molded dishes. Ratatouille consisted of eggplant, zucchini, bell peppers, and tomatoes, cut into large pieces and slowly simmered with herbs like thyme and oregano until they formed a soft, smooth stew with a distinctive Mediterranean aroma. The dish arrived at the holiday feast, serving both as a necessary palate cleanser after a series of rich dishes and as a new conversation starter. It brought a burst of color, a fragrant scent of herbs, and a touch of foreign modern flair amidst the traditional dishes. Ratatouille's fleeting presence on the Thanksgiving table showed that your grandmother's generation was always open to a little culinary adventure beyond the typical American framework, especially when they sought to refresh the menu. However, due to its complexity and cultural difference, this dish did not maintain its long-term position and was quickly forgotten. Baked macaroni and tomatoes. Baked macaroni and tomatoes is the dish that made mid-century Thanksgiving feasts hearty, comforting, and notably budget-friendly. Grandmothers or mothers used inexpensive elbow macaroni mixed with stewed tomatoes, often canned tomatoes for convenience and flavor consistency, sautéed onions, and a little sharp cheddar cheese for richness. This dish was poured into those familiar glass Pyrex dishes, then baked in the oven until bubbling, with the top turning light golden brown and slightly crisp. Its flavor was a combination of gentle, slightly acidic tomato balanced with the warm scent of baked starch, providing maximum comfort. It was not just a thrifty dish, but also a way to add color and nutrition to the meal when fresh produce was hard to find in winter. Today, traditional mac and cheese gets all the attention in its upscale versions, but many still remember the rustic and genuine flavor of baked macaroni and tomatoes. Baked acorn squash with maple syrup. This baked acorn squash is autumn on a plate in the most rustic and authentic way, bringing the feeling of a traditional harvest festival to the dinner table. The uniquely shaped acorn squash was carefully halved, seeds removed, and the natural hollow shell became a beautiful serving bowl. This was a clever and attractive presentation that required no fancy utensils. The unique and most important point of this recipe was placing a large piece of butter in the center of each squash cavity, then gently drizzling real maple syrup over it, allowing the syrup to flow down and soak into the squash flesh. When baked slowly, the squash meat was thoroughly infused with the maple butter glaze, delivering a sweet, earthy flavor, warmth, and sunshine, combined with the squash's natural sweetness. This dish was a rustic reminder that Thanksgiving began as a harvest feast to thank nature and the land. These sparkling golden boats were once symbols of prosperity and abundance, but have now been replaced by more elaborate, less rustic, and natural casseroles and mashes. Rice and mushroom casserole. Finally, rice and mushroom casserole is a quiet, unassuming, yet incredibly popular dish of the convenience era, designed for busy cooks who wanted to save time, yet still have a hearty side dish. Homemakers started with cooked rice, immediately mixing it with a can of condensed cream of mushroom soup, a staple ingredient in casseroles of the 60s to 70s. This simple mixture was poured into a Pyrex dish, then topped with a thick layer of canned crispy fried onions, forming a savory, crunchy, fragrant crust. This casserole was the taste of progress and innovation in the 60s and 70s, a side dish that could be easily prepared ahead of time and served hot without complicated sauce preparation. It provided warmth, savoriness, and richness, absolute comfort during the holiday meal. For a generation, this was not just a dish, but the flavor of resourcefulness and the peace of mind, knowing that dinner was ready even if the main turkey took all day to cook. The side dishes of old Thanksgiving days carry not only the flavor of nostalgia, but also the love, resourcefulness, and spirit of sharing of an entire generation. If you also want to see these dishes return to the modern kitchen, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next culinary journeys. And don't forget to watch the video, 25 church recipes we ate to survive through the Great Depression right now, to discover which simple dishes helped people overcome the hottest times